Good evening, Datuk, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our third webinar series, Enriching Your Golden Years. Thank you for taking time to be with us on this Saturday evening. In today's webinar, our speakers will be sharing the details on independent living at Eden at Botanica CT from various aspects. Tonight, the architect, Mr. Alex Lim from Cst Architects, an Australian-based firm, will be sharing the design concepts of the integrated senior living resort at Eden at Botanica CT. Mr. Raymond Fong, the director of Eden on the Park, Kuching, will be sharing the 5 principles: security, safety, support, service, and sustainability. Mr. Khoo Teck Chong, the CEO of MTT Properties and Development, will be speaking on how the 3R concepts of rest, recreation, and rejuvenation complements the garden township of Botanica City. Mr. Alex heads the Malaysian team that is based in Penang. The firm focuses on designing aged care homes in Malaysia and Asia as the aging population grows significantly. Tonight, Mr. Alex will be sharing the design concept and layout of Eden at Botanica City. Mr. Raymond Fong, a young, energetic, hardworking, and multi-talented gentleman, will be unfolding to us tonight the 5 concepts highlighting the special approach of Eden at Botanica City towards independent living. Mr. Khoo Teck Chong is active in the property development arena and radar Penang. He will be the main person spearheading the development of Eden at Botanica City, the integrated senior living resort. Tonight, Mr. Khoo will be sharing how the 3R concept integrates into Botanica City and how it benefits the residents of the independent living apartments. Let's take a look at the housekeeping guide. Attendees will be muted throughout the session. Please type your questions at the Q&A section and we will endeavor to answer all of them. Otherwise, we will reply you via email. The speakers will be sharing on the concepts and layout of independent living at Botanica City. This session will also include some commercial aspects of independent living. Further in-depth information will be shared in future webinars. This webinar session will be recorded. Without further delay, let us welcome Mr. Alex Lim, the Brand Director of Cst Architects Sdn Bhd. He will be sharing details on the design of Eden at Botanica City. Over to you, Mr. Alex Lim.
Thank you, Christina. Let me start my share screen. Good evening, everyone. First, I would like to thank you, Eden at Botanica City, for inviting us to tonight's webinars. And it's an honor that we are able to work with Eden at Botanica City for the first integrated senior living resort in Penang. Before we go further, let me briefly introduce our office to you. We are Cst Architects from Australia. These are our key personnel in our office. We have architecture arm and interior arms, both led by founding directors David Karabov. Cst Architects is a design-focused practice specialized in aged care and retirement sector. Cst have been working on many aged care projects for years. These are some examples of aged care and retirement village that we have done for a client in different parts of Australia. They are Babcare, TriCare, Advent Care, Blue Cross, Mewa Care, and now Eden at Botanica City. Tonight, we're going to look into 4 subtitles of project site location, architectural vision, master plan, design principle, and internal layout. If you have been following Eden at Botanica City webinars, you probably already know the location. But if you are first time tonight joining us, don't worry. I'll be doing a quick intro of the site. So from here, you can see it is in the located in Botanica CT. The exact location will be just next to the Botanica mansion. And in this image, you can see the site is located close to the nature, back facing the mountain, front facing the sea. And this location is perfect for Eden at Botanica City 3R philosophy, which is the rest, rejuvenation, and recreations. Let us zoom in a little bit more. From here, you can, surrounding at this development at Botanica Township, there is other facilities such as Botanica City Center, Botanica Garden, Botanica Mansion, Botanica Homes, Prince of Wales International School, and a lot more. Now we look at the site view. From the project site, this is the view that you will see. There are township view, there are mountain view, then there are also sea view. Architectural visions. The vision of our design is about social integrations. Social integration means incorporating the newcomers into the social structure of the host society. It is not a place to isolate the elderly, but to encourage the engagement of the elderly with their friends, family, and community. Here we have integrated senior living resort, which is integrating two separate components within a single facility. A care center that provides full-fledged of nursing care, and an active living resort that accommodate active seniors who are seeking independent living. The integration design are supporting each other and help to ease the transitions of the senior in the different stage of aging as their level of frailty increase. Let's look at the master plan design principle. The idea of the master plan is the design in satellite pattern. Care center is a center core surrounding by active living resort and senior living development. The primary connections is the driveway, and the secondary connection is the direct connect to the care center, which you can get the support. In this perimeter, there are many pedestrian connections and small little pockets, community pavilion, which are the activities area. In this development, there's a care center, and next to it, there's the active living. This is the start of the place arrangement of the satellite design. The care center will provide the full-fledged nursing care who require the constant care. And the care center also will provide support and assistance to the active living resort right next to it. The active living resort will have different unit sizes and villa on the ground floor. And there are multiple facilities spread around the clubhouse, the podium, and the rooftop. Let's look at the facilities. The proposed facilities at the open space, there'll be wellness park, garden, central plaza for multi-function purpose, and organic farm. At the clubhouse and the facility floor, there'll be proposed music room, library, tea room, mediation room, cafe, spa, multi-function room, wellness studio, and games room. The proposed program and facility will be equipped with furniture, finishes, equipment, and other safety features specifically designed for just the senior residents. That's the difference compared to the normal apartments. Here are some reference images to give you some inspirations and imaginations. We have wellness park for the exercise open space to play with your grandchildren, an organic farm, and you may have little visitors. You have cafe, you have music room, you have multifunction room, and you can dance, you can bake, you can paint, and spending time with your spouse or your visitors. You have gym, you have spa, and so on. The program and facility will keep the senior residents active in physical and mind. The exterior concept of the design here we want to achieve is to have the resort look and feel to blend in with the current locations, to have open space and landscape connections. Here's an artist's impression of the development. On the left here, you can see the care center, and on the right is the active living resort. And just right next to the Botanica mansion. Here's the apartment type, and here at the bottom is the villa types at the ground floor. And look at the back, it's all surrounded by beautiful nature. Let's look at the internal layout. There are one bedroom, two bedroom, and three bedrooms, different layout. The difference are 700 square feet, 850 square feet, and 1,000 square feet. So from here, for example, the 700 square feet, aligning on one side, there's kitchen, dining, and living, and attached to it, there's a bedroom and bathroom. If you compare to the normal apartments, you will notice that the bedroom and bathroom is much, much bigger, and same as all other units here. The reason is that it's been designed to be adaptable. And there will be 8 exclusive villas unit, approximately about 1,005 square feet, or slightly bigger, to be reviewed later. Here is an example layout of, I've chosen 850 square feet for the 2-bedroom units to show you what's the difference. In here, there's a highlight in pink where you can see it's a very wide access for wheelchair access zone. And also the bathroom is much bigger compared to the normal apartment. The both bedroom and bathroom are compliant with MS 1184. When I say adaptable units, it means when the resident is in mobility impaired, the unit can be easily adjusted to suit the residents without any renovations. Means that when we move in, that furniture doesn't mean have to be arranged according to this. You can arrange according your comfort now. So depends when the levels, the care that they need. Let's say one day they need a bit more space to move around. There is space big enough for them to easily move the furniture to suit the different the stretcher beds and things like that. Some other age-friendly features such as stretcher lifts, stepless ensuite, low-level switches, panic button, door lever handle, finishes color selection, and etc. will also take into consideration in the design development. Other than that, the resort will also layer up with services and software. Thank you. I'll pass it back to you, Christina.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Alex, for the information. The design truly gives you a resort feel that will certainly enrich your golden years with nature and tranquility nearby. Please type your questions in the Q&A section. We will look at it during the Q&A session, and if we are not able to, we will send you a reply via email. Our next speaker will be sharing information that we have all been looking forward to. Mr. Raymond Fong will be unveiling an important aspect of the 5S principle, sustainability from the financial perspective. Let us hear from him. Over to you, Mr. Raymond Fong.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Christina, for the introduction. And thanks to everyone for spending the evening with us. I will start to share my screen. Just give me a second. Okay, so this evening the part of the presentation for me will be to explain a bit about the concept behind Eden at Botanica CT. And as Christina mentioned, I'm a director of Eden on the Park. So our first facility was in Kuching, and we've learned over the last 6 years of operations, and we have learned how to adapt our and how we've learned to adapt to the Malaysian setting. Our nursing care partners are from Australia, and is our architect in Penang. But I can say that over the years we've learned and developed on our core concepts. But just to explain, the foundations of the concept for Eden at Botanica CT were derived from much interaction with the seniors in the Malaysian environment. And on your screen are the few key feedback that we received through surveys and through focus groups that we've done over the years. So here are some of the things that we can share with you. The seniors would like the feeling that their home is secure at all times. They have a place to live that has easy access and that is safe to move around in. They like access to convenient services and assistance where required. They like their friends, just like all of us, we like to have our friends around and to remain socially connected and supported. And of course, as Christina alluded to, they would like to be able to sustain a comfortable lifestyle that they have been used to long into their retirement. So this is some of the key feedback that we received through all the interactions that we have had over the many years in this sector. And so this has been distilled into what we call the 3R concept and the 5S principles. So when the residents are welcome into Eden at Botanica CT, it is intended they will find it a place where they can enjoy their rest in a serene environment, participate in the recreational activities that we'll be preparing, and rejuvenate themselves and perhaps their health after long decades of hard work. So these are the 3Rs: rest, recreation, and rejuvenation. And the 5 S's describe the foundations of how we plan our integrated senior living resorts at both the active living and the nursing care facility components, and illustrate that we are more than just about the hardware, which is the bricks and mortar, and we are making available the software that will give our residents peace of mind. So it became very clear to us that through the feedback, we are not a bricks and mortar development company, although it looks like that of the presentations that you've seen or the images that you've seen. Eden at Botanica CT and Eden on the Park, we are aged care services providers. So we are delivering a service, and that is beyond the bricks and mortar that you can see. So the 5S principles for us are about safety, support, service, security, and sustainability. So getting into these, the first of the 5 S's is about safety. We'll have Eden at Botanica CT will have age-friendly facilities and environment. And what do we mean by this? So taking the 850 square feet apartment that Alex showed earlier, some of the features that we'd like to share with you. So taking from the left-hand side, in our kitchens and in the rest of the furniture that we'll select for the fully fitted units, age-friendly furniture will have been designed for. So, for example, the image that you can see are pull-down shelves for wall-hung cabinets. So of course, for space utilization, some cabinets will be placed at high level, but as we all know, falls from height are one of the key or one of the major causes of accidents in any age group, to be honest. So to limit that risk, we'll be installing furniture with pull-down shelves to reduce the risk of falls. AI-based cameras will be a non-intrusive method for fall detection and other capabilities. So there'll be monitoring of the residents within the units. We aim to do it in a non-intrusive way. We're working out with our technology partners on this. So if you can, just to describe the image on the top left, you'll see that the AI camera and what the technology would perceive from an image of a person will just be some outlines. So there'll be no, we try to minimize the intrusion into a person's privacy and balance that against the safety of the individual within the unit itself. Alex already mentioned the units are the unit rooms and the spaces are sized very generously. So for example, in the main bedrooms, mobility device access all around the bed will be provided. And this is important for mobility impaired persons where perhaps with a walker or with a wheelchair, you'll still be able to get all around the bedroom safely and in and out of the bed. Bathrooms are also critical areas for us, of course. And the image that you see on the right, in the top right, you'll see that there's a ledge for those taking showers to have a seat and whilst having a shower. So this minimizes the risk of slips and falls in the bathroom. We will, of course, not be having any, well, we're not planning for any baths because stepping over the baths in and out is also considered a high risk for seniors. Last but not least, on the right-hand side, you'll see that we're trying to minimize the use of physical keys or cards around our facility. You'll realize, and just like everyone else, we're using technology to reduce the need to carry so many keys everywhere. So we're going to leverage on technology and in this case, the use of facial recognition for you to access your unit. And we're also looking on how to use that in other settings like the lifts and car parking and elsewhere. The added benefit of this, of course, is about reducing touching on surfaces. So of course, over the last 18 months of the pandemic, we've all been very aware of for infection control. And this is another advantage that we see of using technology to increase safety in our facility. So the next of the 5 S's is about support. We're ensuring nursing support is always available, and there'll be a management team that will be fostering a community atmosphere so that each resident can feel supported by their fellow residents. Assisted living support for activities of daily living. So these are things like eating, bathing, changing of clothes, etc. So this will be available through trained carers, and they will be located full-time at the active living apartments for those who require assisted living. We'll have a management team that will be fostering community development through social activity. Our intention is to have a full social calendar, Monday to Sunday, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And we'll also be implementing computerized medical record keeping, and this will be maintained by our licensed nursing care residents next door to the active living apartments. So some images of this medical record keeping. And the reason why we do that is that we're offering to all our residents monthly vital checks. This information will be stored together with any information that you can share with us, for example, who your doctors are or what medication you're on, etc. This will be maintained in our system and managed by our licensed nursing care residents. And the reason why we do this is that this data we made available upon request by the residents or persons authorized by the residents in the event of any emergencies. So in the event of anything untoward, we will know which doctor to call, or we'll be able to furnish the relevant medical persons or the authorized persons with some medical information for the resident's condition. The next S is about service. So I mentioned earlier that Eden at Botanica CT is more than just a developer. We're an aged care services provider. So aside from nursing care services, we're also providing non-nursing services. We'll have an on-site concierge, housekeeping and laundry services will be provided, scheduled trips to Botanica CT's commercial precinct, and it's ever growing over the last couple of years. It's very heartening to see that that there's a lot of new and outlets in the commercial precinct. And there'll be buggy transfers to Botanica Mansion, where there'll be the gym and the swimming pool and a restaurant. Security, of course, is vital. We want to promote a sense of security amongst the elderly, where they have the comfort of having a system to fall back on. So aside from inside the unit, Botanica CT itself has auxiliary police force patrolling all around the 300 acres of Botanica CT. We're implementing AI technology again for car parking and also in the common areas. So we're monitoring not only our residents, but in the event of any visitors or service delivery persons, etc. So you can be assured that the level of security will be a priority for Eden at Botanica CT. Finally, about sustainability. Now, we're more than talking about environmental sustainability, which is of course important, and there are things that we'll be doing like rainwater harvesting, and we're maintaining quite a lot of green area within our facility as well as throughout the 300 acres of Botanica CT. But for Eden on the park, we also like to promote the idea of financial sustainability to encourage peace of mind for our residents. And to do that, we'll be offering, and we're preparing 2 core services that through our experience have resonated with our residents. So the first thing is something known as the Living Trust, and I'll explain that in the next slide. And we're also going to offer a broad range of ownership options. So I'll also be explaining that in the next couple of slides. So on Living Trust, for our seniors in our community, the range of traditional financial instruments, for example, insurances to support our seniors when they are older, become more limited in the present scenario. And the authorizations to enable quick decision-making in the event of certain severe medical conditions are often not formalized early. So what we intend to do is that we'll be working with independent, or we're presently working with independent trustees to provide all our residents, irrespective of which ownership option, whether you're doing outright sales or through a leasing with us, the idea of the living trust. So that will be bundled in with when you enter our facility. And in doing so, in the event again of anything untoward, we are the authorizations to perform any kind of medical procedures are available, and the funding is then available to enable those procedures. Right now, what we see is that these without these authorizations already in place, sometimes time is lost, and these are vital hours and days, of course, when something untoward happens. So we think that these are important, and through the feedback that we've had from our residents, this is something that they found very valuable and to achieve peace of mind. The next thing is about leasing. So as a preface to that, we have conducted a market survey and it was done online. And we were surprised by this result. So it's something to share with the group here. Over 60% of respondents have a preference to lease rather than to own a unit at Botanica CT. So this was counterintuitive in a way to the traditional mindset of in Malaysia, where typically people like to own a property for it's just typical for cultural reasons and for things that just been happened over the years. So the feedback from this survey was indeed surprising to us, and it led us to develop some of the leasing options that I'm about to explain. So we'll be offering two models for future residents to reside in the active living apartments. So the first one will be outright ownership of the freehold of the unit. So this is more traditional property purchasing that I'm sure everyone has had some experience on. But in this option, we'll be inserting two general conditions, and that will be described. They'll be described further in the documentation. But generally, Eden at Botanica CT would like to have the first right of refusal to buy back the unit in the event that you would like to sell on this unit in the future. And of course, this is subject to terms and conditions. Secondly, the purchasers of the unit will have to agree to a deed of mutual covenant where house rules will be defined. Okay, so that's the outright ownership option. So we're also offering 4 leasing models from a 1 to 20-year lease. And there'll be some features that we'll describe in a minute, but there were incoming fees. So there's a one-off incoming fees, and thereafter monthly lease payments will vary depending on which leasing model that is selected by our residents. So the reason why we've done this is not only that the feedback from the market survey, of course. We found that in designing these ownership models or the residential models, we found that we go back to the basic of what is the integrity, what is the purpose of the senior living resort. And it is a place where for seniors, and it has to be maintained in that form. And we've always had the idea that we'll be managing these active living apartments. And in doing so, we can maintain the integrity of that concept and that facility, and it can be enjoyed by all our residents as they come in, and also for the foreseeable future. Okay, so for the outright ownership models, so we have 4 units, 4 different types of units: 700 square feet, 850 square feet, 1,000 square feet, and villas. And the freehold prices for these are from 400,000 ringgit to for the 850 square feet unit about 500,000. For 1,000 square feet unit about 600,000, and the villas, which are dual key, 1.15 million ringgit. The monthly service charges we're going to determine, but they will include what we call tier 1 services. So we'll also explain tier 1 services in a minute. So these will be finalized, and they'll be, of course, explained in the time when we come to launch our facilities. Okay, so we have 4 leasing models described in this table. So they're known as pay-as-you-go, 50s, decade, and pay-first, worry-later models. So the lease tenures are 1, 5, 10, and 20 years. There will be an incoming contribution, so there's a one-off payment that will be increasing in value as you choose, as the lease tenure increases. But conversely, the monthly leases, which will wrap in a certain level of services, will decrease depending on the lease tenure selected. For the basic service level, which will be upgraded also, the pay-as-you-go will have tier 1 plus half board, which means breakfast will be provided to all those who take up this lease model. Similarly, for the 50s, for the decade leasing model, you get tier 2 service level, and the pay first, worry later will have a tier 3 service level. So this is the outline of our leasing models. The final figures for both outright ownership and leasing models will be announced in Q2 20 next year. And the figures are illustrative, but we will be there or thereabouts. Okay, just to explain the type of services that we provided through for those outright ownership residents, as well as those who are taking the leasing models. So tier one service level means you'll enjoy having the 24-hour carers within the facility itself. There were 24-hour concierge transportation services to Botanica CT commercial precinct, scheduled daily social activities, and monthly basic vital checks and medical record keeping. So everyone who comes into our facility will be provided tier 1 services. Okay, for those who are eligible for tier 2 services or upgrade to tier 2 services, will have all the tier 1 services, of course. But in addition, you'll get daily breakfast, housekeeping, laundry, once a month complimentary lunch or dinner, room service, and 15 days per annum to the care residents on a twin sharing basis. So what it means is that for those who are living in our active living apartments, may require on and off to, or may want on and off to be monitored more closely. And 15 days of stay within our care residence is included as part of the tier 2 service level. For tier 3, you're eligible for all the services in tier 1 and 2. In addition, we'll be providing a an annual full medical checkup, as well as 30 days per annum free entry to the care residence on a twin sharing basis. Okay, so that comes to the end of the 5S presentation. Again, I thank you for your time, and I hand back to Christina.
All right, thank you, Mr. Raymond. I can see that much effort has been put into the details of the design of the units, and I think our fellow participants here appreciate the fact that EABC is offering a lease option for the independent living apartments. Without further delay, our last but not least speaker is Mr. Khoo, the CEO of MTT Properties and Development, he will be talking about the 3R concept. Botanica CT, the self-contained township on the south of Penang Island, has in recent months attracted many businesses. The garden township has certainly flourished. Let us hear from Mr. Khoo, the CEO, on how the 3R concepts integrate into Botanica CT. Over to you, Mr. Khoo.
Hi, Christina. Thank you. Can you all see me? Oh, good. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Christina, and good evening, everyone. Raymond, Alex, thank you, and everyone for sparing your time this evening with us. And yeah, let me just share my screen. Yep. Okay. Yeah, and it's always tough to be the last presenter, and I see there is a lot of Q&A session after this Raymond's presentation and so Alex's presentation. So I will keep it as short and simple for my sharing on my part. Yes. What have Raymond actually share is more on the 5S principle, and this 3R concept, which is the recreation, rest, and rejuvenation, I will share on this part. This 3R and the 5S principle is always been guided us when we actually design this facility or this active living apartment. We have to have enough recreational activities or amenities for our resident and able to actually rest in a serene environment and eventually rejuvenate themselves. So I will explain a bit more on each of the criteria. On the recreation, actually the recreation that that we design, I take the cue from the architect. Actually, when we discuss and when we design the recreation activities, we have to have enough amenities and also variety for our senior. That is to enable for interaction and also for them to enjoy and stay active. So within the facility itself, if we look at it like what Alex has shared, the amenities that we have actually ranges. We have landscape park, we have community garden, we have even we have our own clubhouse, wellness center. You know, all this is being shared by Alex. But the point here is the recreation activities and amenities that we are providing is actually very different from a normal condominium. So the point here is the design and the criteria that we actually put into the amenities for recreation is actually specially for the seniors and not really so much into a normal condominium that you see in normal development. Because some of the amenities and the recreation activities that actually we have in the normal condominium may or may not be suitable, and it may hurt yourself when you actually have this recreation at that part. And you all know, if let's say you all have been following us in our first and the second webinar, you know that actually our facility of Eden at Botanica CT is actually in Botanica CT Township. So Botanica CT is actually 300 acres of township development. So we have been developing this township since 10, 12 years ago. So and currently there is a lot of amenities and conveniences that actually within the township, and residents for Eden and Botanica City will definitely be enjoying all this. For example, we have our rock garden, which is actually in our first phase, where a resident in our facility will be able to actually just enjoy this facility. And as you can see on the right hand side is actually hiking trails. So this is actually natural hiking trails, which is actually in Botanica City itself, and is just beside our facility that we are developing. And of course, this is Botanica Mansion, the clubhouse for actually the township. It's actually with a colonial building, and it actually equipped with full gym equipment, swimming pool, and also a restaurant for the resident to enjoy. And of course, if you visited Botanica City, the township itself, the recent commercial precinct that we have developed also actually to provide convenience for the resident and also the surrounding resident of Botanica City or even our facility. So this actually created a lot of convenience for the surrounding, especially we have hypermarkets, TF Value Mart, we have KFC, Starbucks, Secret Recipe, we have Pizza Huts coming in. So all this is actually commercial content that actually within the township that actually complement the facility. The next R is actually rest. and it is also a very important criteria that all of us need a rest, and we need to rest in order to move forward. So we need to have that environment to actually help us in terms of an atmosphere for us to actually rest well. But of course, is similar to the recreation, where the amenities, whether it is the apartment itself, which is the layout and also is shared by the architect, the amenities and the design, even the clubhouse, the landscape, we need to assure that the resident will be able to rest and relax. Maybe certain component, it is very different from the normal condominium that we have, which is actually that promotes more rest and relax for the resident. Not only within the facility that we have to promote that that component of rest. So this is the picture of Botanica Mansion, and the facility is just at the site of Botanica Mansion. As you can see, the surrounding of this facility will actually promote the rest and relax and the environment and the surrounding. So, and you can see there's a river. That is an actual photo, and we are blessed with not only one, we have two streams actually running across just beside our facility. So this will something that we should look forward to in terms of the facility within, and also the surrounding of the development. Well, rejuvenation, actually it is the third R, which is actually the combination of recreation and rest, being able to rest and relax, and you are able to rejuvenate yourself in the facility. I would like to take this opportunity to reiterate on the recreation and also the rest here. So recreation, yes, if you look at it, we are actually trying to promote or have this opportunity to build the like-minded community, meaning they are able to share common interests, hobby, or probably even way of life. So that is important, where the senior community would be able to have their own community, will have their own senior or think alike community to actually live together. So that is why we think that the community building is important. The other one is the rest component. I would think that the rest component, where actually when we rest, some people were actually telling me that, yeah, I can rest at home. But the difference here is whether it is a peace of mind or not, whether we rest. And then here, if we look at our facility, the more important thing is actually the support and the care, whether the support, the care, and the services that is actually available when you need it. So especially if I give an example, certain resident which is may actually need certain amount of care or medical care, or certain rest or even rehab from previous medical experience. So that component, where you have the support from the nursing care, and also nursing care center provide the services, that is important for us to actually rest and recover and or even rehab in the facility itself. So to conclude, we need in the facility itself, we need to have enough recreation amenities and activities to keep our seniors active, and also able to rest well and recover and relax, and eventually it will rejuvenate themselves, so that they will have an enriched golden years ahead. So yeah, that's my sharing. And yeah, I will pass back to Christina.
Thank you, Mr. Koh. Thank you very much. We see quite a number of questions that has come in. Yeah. So the first question is from the floor. Yeah, maybe Mr. Raymond, can you take this question? Please explain how living trust works and how is it different compared to normal hospitalization policy?
Okay, let me turn on the video.
Yeah.
So how it works, I can share in general terms, but the details, of course, has to be worked out with the individual trustees, between the resident and the individual trustees. So, but in general, the living trust is basically a list of instructions in the event that something untoward happens. So, for example, if one of our residents suffers from a stroke or a debilitating condition overnight. So in that kind of condition, without clear instructions, it becomes quite a significant problem for us as an operator, and also and more importantly, for the residents, where it is unclear who is responsible for which action. And in many cases, the seniors are either living alone, or they don't have any loved ones nearby to take responsibility for those actions. So in having the living trust in place, if that's in place and we are aware that this arrangement has been made a trustee, we can call up the trustee and request for those instructions to be processed. So the trustee will then enact those instructions. And of course, the trustee, so it's not only from a medical perspective, but also from a financial perspective. So if some hospitalization fees are required, and sometimes, for private hospitals, they require some money to be paid up front, and that kind of thing, right? So the living trust is a document that has all these instructions, and the trustee will be the person that will be responsible for enacting those instructions. So Eden at Botanica CT, our role in all of this will be to arrange for this living trust to be developed and to be formalized, and in the event of any untoward incidents, to alert the trustee that something has happened and those instructions are to be enacted. I hope I've answered the question clearly. For hospitalization component, the policies, I think, but perhaps it should be incorporated as part of the living trust. So whatever authorizations the hospital requires should also be generally described in the trust, so the trustee will be allowed to sign off on behalf of that resident. So but the actual details should be between the resident and the trustee. I mean, Eden and Botanica CT will not be determining that for the residents.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Raymond. Yes, I hope the answers is clear. Okay, the next one that comes in is, can the unit be bought? Can the unit bought be leased out privately until the owner needs it? Yeah, can the unit bought, that means, yeah, be leased out privately until the owner needs it?
Mr. Koo, perhaps this is your better place to do it with your experience.
Yes, I can try to explain that. Actually, when we look at the leasing and owning the property, I think we debated about this thing together with Eden, and yes, we definitely need to give that option. Meaning, for example, myself, if I actually interested in that property, but I don't need it now, so what will happen? And we will actually be categorized as investors, but you can stay, you can buy, and probably you need to so-called hand it back to us as EABC, as we are managing the property, and we will actually give to try to arrange the tenancy, as what Raymond explained just now. So that is, but of course, we try not to actually open up too many of this category, because we actually want to have the owner own occupied, even though you buy, but we are leasing it out for you. Yes, that is possible. And if I may add on, actually I see one of the question there, if I may answer it again, related to this question, is we will control, yes, we will control the resident, meaning the resident, not the owner. We will control the resident which is staying in the facility, particularly active living unit, which is 60 years and above, and also those resident or senior that actually need a bit of care, and maybe they need additional medical attention or care, or any services, that we will actually need to go through their profile and to ensure that yes, they are suitable in terms of staying in the active living apartment. So in a nutshell, yes, 60 years and above, and also those who actually need the services and the support. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Koh. I think that is
Yeah.
very clearly explained. Okay, there's one question on layout. The layout appears quite conventional. Can you describe how the physical space caters for seniors with varying degree of impairment? For example, sight, hearing, speech, and mobility. And I think also about the same, the floor design suggests that circulation for wheelchair access may pose a challenge. Can seniors on wheelchairs comfortably enter the study, kitchen, and balcony? Maybe Mr. Alex would like to take this question.
Yes. If first we also have discussed about this, if we mix all the rooms to be wheelchair able to wheelchair, then the space will be extremely big. And then because when we move in the time, not everyone is will be immediately in mobility impaired or straight on wheelchair. When we move in the time, we are still the seniors are still very active. Just that when up to a certain stage, you may need to be on the walking chair. Then these are the places that you will go to the often, which is your bedroom, your bathrooms. For the bedroom 2 or bedroom 3, yes, there's still space, depends on how you fit out the things in there. And also for the kitchen, yes, we are giving a bit more space out for the clutch or things to able for you to turn around and work around it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Alex. Thank you.
Maybe I'd like to add on as well, Christina. Of course, in terms of layout, mobility impairment is clearly the thing that we are catering for in terms of layout. But in terms of other disability, for example, for those with sight, and if you're having hearing disabilities, the thing that we're building in will be about there's a bit of technology that we're looking in just for monitoring purposes. But I appreciate that question, in fact, and it's something that we should consider clearly for For those with other disabilities, of course, we are very focused on mobility impairment. That's clear. But we appreciate the feedback and the thought that gone into that question. And rest assured, we will consider that at the next coming weeks. And as far as possible, we will also incorporate that at EABC.
All right. Okay, there's another question. Perhaps, yeah, maybe Mr. Khoo can take this. May I know the usage of Botanica Mansion facilities is shared with all other unit owners or exclusively for seniors?
Yeah, I saw that question also, Christina. So Botanica Mansion is actually within Botanica CT Township. So, but it is just beside the facility. So, and of course, when we design the facility itself, Botanica Mansion, it is not purely for this Eden at Botanica City. It is just beside. So, but because that facility is actually owned by this MTT Properties itself. So we would like Mansion to be one of the core component because it's just beside. So, for example, we have a swimming pool, we have a full-fledged gym, and also a restaurant. So that one senior, which is or resident, which is staying in our active living apartment, can, and we are providing buggies for that service. So yes, it's not belong, but it is very, very easy accessible, and of course it's open to public, so that it's more vibrant, where you can see other people, or you can actually have dinner or meet up with your friend instead of in the facility itself. You can actually enjoy your evening with your friend in Botanica Mansion. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, I think keeping social contact is very important nowadays. Yeah. Okay. One question: having experienced almost 2 years of COVID-19 lockdown restrictions, have you incorporated any infection control measures into your communal living concept and design?
I'll take that, Christina. In fact, this was very pertinent and question, of course. And in fact, over the period of the lockdown, we had many rounds of design, much to the frustration of Alex, I'm sure. He's here smiling because we got to the end of it. I can say that. But you know, before the lockdown in March 2020, we had basically concluded our design, but and we were going to embark on the authority approvals, etc. But we took the time, in a way given to us by the pandemic, to think clearly about how we would address infection control, not only in the nursing care residence, where that is of course paramount, but also in the active living apartment. So one of the things that we are looking into it, that we will be implementing, is this thing about low touch services. So I think I mentioned earlier about leveraging technology, facial recognition in more areas than one, not just entering your unit, but maybe in lifts and in other communal areas, so that not only you reduce the number of keys and cards that you need to carry around, but also then you don't need to touch any surface to go past doors. So that's one of the areas. The other thing that we are quite focused on is allowing natural ventilation. Maybe in the next upcoming webinars and in future presentations, you will see that we've incorporated a lot of areas where there's natural lighting and natural ventilation. So in our active living apartments, for example, there's on the outside, it looks like it's a typical tower block of 14 floors, but there are 3 or 4 light wells, and it's meant to also not allow natural lighting to come in, but also to promote ventilation in all the areas. So these are the things that we would be looking into. There's other areas like common facilities, etc., that we are be looking at looking through the lens of infection control in the design.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Raymond. I think that is very, very well explained. There's this one question about the facilities. In Malaysia, what is the trend of the new facility? Is it an integrated facility like Eden or just an independent living? Maybe Mr. Alex, would you like to take this question?
Right, from what I can see, from my opinion, in Malaysia, we have separate independent old folks home or apartments to make it to be age friendly. But there are two both separate location or separate, totally different development. But in EABC is the first of the kind that they have integrated this senior living resort. These two, this care center and the apartments, they support each other, which I don't think there's any other facilities outside is doing that. And why integrated? We always talk about with Raymond and Co. Integrated is actually helping transitions from for these apartments, attracting the like-minded senior, means that they are ready to go in to stay in this place and create their own community. So when up to a certain when they're aging, for the different stage of frailty, and they may have to get some support and assist, and slowly they may need to transit to the care center, but which is just next door. So this will reduce a lot of stress for the senior when they come to maybe a certain age, that you instantly change them to the care center. So for this integrated, it actually helps the whole transitions. So that's why for this whole development, 2 as 1 is very unique. I don't think there is any other developments doing that in here.
Thank you, Mr. Alex. Mr. Koo, would you like to add in?
I would like to, because our background is developer, right? So, but looking at the trend, actually, when we and I saw one of the question actually came is your consultant is predominantly this from Australia. So how do you do the so-called the design for Asian? So coming back to the trend question first, actually when we Botanica CT, the township, we allocated this retirement resort, by Dato Sri Kenny when he actually first shared in the first webinar. So we have been looking for partners because we are pure developers. We don't have that expertise, and we were lucky to actually have Eden on the park, which actually they are the first one who actually have gone through the integration of aged care facility. So that is something which is, I would say they are the first in Malaysia. And of course, they have been using Australian model where they have managed to successfully localize the SOP, the Asian or the Malaysian context. But if you look at the trend, besides Eden on the park, you see in Johor or KL, probably now we have some in Johor, we will have some coming up in KL, and which is the whole Malaysia, the government, even the federal government is looking into this aged care facility, because we can't deny that Malaysia is moving into it. By 2020, probably we will hit about 12% or so. So in terms of the trend, we are looking at it now. For example, Penang. I won't say in KL or Johor, probably they are a bit more advanced than Penang. But if you look at the Penang's context, what do we have in the market now? It is pure nursing. And those nursing is actually I don't know whether I should say this, meaning the nursing center which we have in Penang, none of it is actually certified by Ministry of Health, right? So and Eden on the Park in Kuching, they are certified by Ministry of Health, and of course our Eden at Botanica CT will be certified by Ministry of Health. But that actually is only the nursing. The most important part is the facility, because for me as a developer, it also took me a while to actually change how do I look at this development. As a developer, you look at it as a development product, and I see there's a lot of people is asking about the layout, you know, how much you are selling, and those kind of things. But if we change our my experience is we change our perspective about this facility. This facility consists of a nursing care center and also a active living apartment. Active living apartment, actually it is a transition where active seniors and also those which have a bit of probably mobility impaired, whether they are not so mobile, those, and they are not into nursing care facility yet. So that is actually, we call it aging in place. So with that integration and the trend, I think this is more complete and I would say a solution, and also a facility that we want to bring to the community, so that there is this proper aging in place facility for Malaysia. And actually we when we present this, we always tell the state government that probably we are the first one which has the integrated aged care facility for Penang. So with the trend here we see is something like that, meaning in KL, in JB, and hopefully in Penang, if we have more integration and more aged care facility that consists of nursing care and support services, that will be good for the whole community. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Khoo. There's one question that is particularly directed to Mr. Raymond. Could Mr. Raymond please elaborate a little more on the leasing options? Over to you, Raymond.
Yeah. Okay. No, thank you. And there, unsurprisingly, there's a lot of questions about leasing. Sorry, I just got on mute for some reason. Okay. Maybe best that I share my screen again, Christina, I don't mind. And
yeah, please go ahead. Yes.
and I will. So it's easier to explain. Okay, so here we go. There are four. We're planning to have four leasing models where the lease tenures are 1, 5, 10, and 20 years. So there's two types of payments that we needed to when you select one of these leasing models. One is called the incoming contribution. So that is a one-off, and then we paid before you enter the active living apartments. Then there will be a monthly lease to be paid, whichever leasing model that is selected. So if you take a 1-year lease, you pay a certain amount, and if you take a 20-year lease, you pay a significantly lower monthly lease payments. And there are a lot of questions on on what are the values of these incoming contributions and the monthly leases. I hope you can bear with us. We're quite a long way before we complete the development, so or before we complete the construction. But over the coming webinars, we will be providing more detail on these values. And maybe the last thing we'd like to mention again on this various lease tenures, we are providing 3 levels of service. So for 3 tiers, I use the terminology consistently. So the tier 1 will be available to the 1 and 5 year lease tenures. And on top of the tier 1 service level, you also receive breakfast daily. For those who are opting for the 10-year lease tenure, we'll have a tier 2 service level, and 20-year service lease tenure will have a tier 3 service level. And the types of services of tier 1, 2, and 3 are on the screen. So to recap, tier 1 is available to every single resident, including those who opt for outright ownership. So the 24-hour carriers will be on standby, also with a 24-hour concierge. So we distinguish the two. So the concierge is to provide the non-nursing related services, and the carriers are those who require assisted living and other nursing services. Transportation service to Botanica CT commercial precinct is provided. Scheduled daily social activities to promote community development within the active living apartment, and as well as monthly basic vital checks and medical record keeping. So every single resident will have access to tier 1 service. So tier 2 and tier 3 will be provided depending on the lease model. But of course, if you're on the 1 or 5 year leases, you can opt to top up and to receive a tier 2 service level. So you also then receive daily breakfast, housekeeping, laundry service, once a month complimentary lunch or dinner, room service, and 15 days per annum stay at the care residence if needed. And tier 3 is also again available to those on the 20-year who opt for the 20-year lease, but for others they can upgrade to tier 3 that will entitle you to a full yearly medical checkup and 30 days per annum entry to the care residence. And just to elaborate, if I may just go back to the outright ownership model. So this will be more typical. It will be sold as a freehold. For those who opt to own the unit outright, it will be sold as a freehold. Monthly service charges will include tier 1 services for outright ownership. For those who opt for outright ownership, we are working hard to ensure that the monthly service charges do not stray too far from what is typical in Penang for typical condominium. So we're suffice to say we're looking at where the large cost components in typical condominium service charges, and we're trying to find innovative ways to reduce those costs, so that the tier 1 service can be provided. So I hope that deals with the issue of the different leasing models, and there were quite a lot of questions about maintenance costs as well. So the general statement on maintenance costs is that we, for those who opt for the outright ownership model, we try to keep the monthly service charges to what is typical in Penang at present. And a separate maintenance charge will not be applicable for those who opt for the leasing model. So whatever monthly lease that you pay, that is the one payment that you make, and there's no additional service or maintenance charges that you would think are not typical for living in a condominium. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Christina. If I may just add on a bit more from Raymond's explanation, and I see some of the chat. Most of them would actually talk about timing. When are you ready to launch, and some of the details of pricing. What does that include, and those kind of things. Just a bit of explanation in terms of timing. Yes. We are submitting our plans to authority as a developer. I mean, I will explain that so that you all could understand. Yeah, we have submitted our plan, and also because of pandemic, actually took us a bit of time to actually handle the approval part. And yes, we have submitted our plan. Probably we will be looking at Q2 have more details along the way. And also just to have the understanding, because when we started our first webinar, then second webinar, so there is a lot of minor details that we have. It is still under so-called, we are still designing it in terms of, like, for example, how much is your maintenance fees and those kind of things, because we have just submitted our plan, and those details will come subsequently. It is not that I don't want our participant to feel that, oh wow, you're not ready, and then you start to share all your things. No, actually we are delighted to actually share. But from our first webinar and the second webinar, a lot of question, a lot of inquiry about the facility itself, which actually we are quite happy, where a lot of people inquire about the nursing, about the active living. So we thought that actually we have to give a bit of information about the facility itself, so that everyone understand what does this facility all about in terms of nursing and in terms of active living. But rest assured, in terms of timing, when we got more details, for example, maybe a lot of people were asking, what's your sales package, you know, those kind of things. But rest assured, when we come to Q1 or Q2 next year, when we are ready, we'll definitely be reviewing to you all. Yeah, so that is to just to have the understanding, so that maybe some of the chat we don't have enough time to answer you. You say that, oh, why are you avoiding my question and do something. So that is to address the expectation, not that we want to actually brief, but we are not ready. No, we are briefing those information that we have currently to share with our people here.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Khoo and Raymond. Due to time factor, we will just take one last question. Okay. As this senior care and living concept spans a long time, is there a backup operator appointed, whether required by law or otherwise, in case Eden decided to exit the business?
Okay. This is in fact, we're very positive about the service that we are providing, and we believe that with the demographics in our nation, we think that there is sustainability for Eden at Botanica CT as an ongoing concern. So there isn't any, in fact, if we take a step back to address a component of that question about statutory requirements, in fact, for this sector of senior living, Malaysia is still going through the process of developing sufficient guidelines for investors to come into this business. So that is one of the primary reasons why there hasn't been a lot more investors in this sector, because the regulatory environment is still a little fluid. Maybe I can say it up to that stage, and then for more detail, of course, we can have it an offline discussion. We can arrange for a meeting, this kind of thing. But even at Botanica CT, I think we feel confident that we have experience in coaching, and we found our way to, and we've convinced our partners, our valued partners, I would say, in the Botanica Hills Sdn Bhd and MTT properties, that we can deliver a service, and we can deliver a sustainable service for the ongoing future. So maybe it's not really answering the question in a typical sense, but maybe the 2 points I'd like to make is that we are very confident, and we believe in the thing that we're doing, that we're providing care to the seniors in our society. We think that we can do it in a sustainable manner, and the regulatory environment, we believe, will be clarified in the coming years. It has to be, but in the meantime, there's no specific requirement for a backup operator, but we have confidence in ourselves and the service that we can deliver.
Yeah, maybe I can add on a bit as a partner lah. So yes, we spoke about this question before, and for the audience here, you see, because the active living, because if we, like I said just now, it is a facility, and then it will be managed by Eden at Botanica CT. So manage means the active living apartment or even the nursing care center, it is going to be managed by the same group. And yes, from that experience and those kind of things, we think, of course, we cannot promise future. So what will happen, or what is the confidence level? So first thing, it will be managed by the same group, which actually also manages the nursing care center. And as you see the model, actually the active living is for sale, for lease, and we want to actually maintain the integrity. That is why Eden and Botanica City will insist that this facility will be managed by Eden and Botanica City, which is by the Eden Group as the backbone. Another assurance is active living is for sale, is for lease, but nursing care center is purely owned by us. So if we are not confident, and if we think that this facility is we just want to come and manage, it doesn't work, we will just walk off. But you see, we are putting, if I can just mention the figure, yeah, we are putting close to 30 million into developing this nursing care center. So this nursing care center is owned by us and will be managed as if you look at the facility in totality, which is the core component. The core component is the nursing care center, and that component is owned by us and it's not for sale. So that is something that we hope the resident in active living and also the nursing care center that actually live in this facility have the assurance that this facility will be there. That's a bit on my perspective.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much to our panel speakers, to Mr. Alex Lim, Brand Director of Cst Architects, Mr. Raymond Fong, Director of Eden on the Park, Kuching, and Mr. Khoo Teck Chong, the CEO of MTT Properties and Developments in Sdn Bhd, for sharing in-depth info on the concepts of independent living at Eden at Botanica City. A big thank you to all our participants for taking time to attend this meeting. We look forward to inviting you to our next webinar in January next year. Stay safe, stay healthy, God bless, and have a blessed weekend. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.